Hello, thank you for joining me today again on the Church History Trail. And we're in Gallery 2 now. And we're still continuing here in Bagenal's Castle in NEWRY. And so this is roll moulding. Section of 13th century roll moulding, probably from a doorway in the Cistercian Abbey at NEWRY. Roll mouldings of this type were often used as a decorative feature on high status doorways in medieval churches and monastic buildings, perhaps on a principal entrance or on a doorway leading to a side chapel. Then it says this section of moulding was probably found in the local area and reused in this location during work on the building in the 20th century. And it says artist's impression of a roll moulding on a doorway leading to a side chapel in a medieval Cistercian abbey. So there you are. Pretty amazing, isn't it? Bit of history there. There's no doubt about it. Fantastic. And that's the charter of King James the First to the town of NEWRY. And that's King James II. Charter of King James II to the town of NEWRY. James by the grace of God. And if you want to pause the video and read that, you can. He's King of England, Scotland and Ireland, defender of the faith, etc. It says modern transcript of a charter granted to NEWRY by James II in September 1688 as part of a reform of municipal government in Ireland. Under the terms of the new charter, the town market was moved from Thursday to Tuesday. There were to be 21 burgesses instead of 12, and a town clerk was appointed. So there you go. So we're going to have a wee look. It says here, first floor. In the 16th century, this floor was divided into a large chamber and a smaller chamber. It says the larger chamber may have functioned as the hall, which would have been the most public room in the castle. The lesser members of the household would have lived and dined in this room. And it says a smaller chamber has been interpreted as a parlour, a more private room used by the family, which was becoming popular in gentry houses in the 16th century. And there you can see it. So a pretty nice room, isn't it? There's no doubt about it. Absolutely. And it says there, following the Irish defeat in the 9 Years' War and the subsequent flight of the Earls, Ulster in the early 17th century was a land in turmoil. Its traditional leadership banished and its cultural identity suppressed. English settlement moved toward complete colonisation as Irish lands were seized from Gaelic families. From 1609 to 1613, a plantation was established, turning Ulster from the most staunchly Irish region to the land to one dominated by English and Scottish settlers. And then you can read the rest of that. Or if you want to read it in Irish, you can as well. And then it says Arthur Bagenal, Sir Nicholas Bagenal's grandson, reached 21 in 1603. He inherited the castle and estates and developed the town. The economic revival of NEWRY and the influence of its merchants also afforded it some political importance, and in 1613 the town was granted borough status. So there you go. Then it says at this stage the town was centred around Bagenal's Castle and St Patrick's Church. However, in the 1690s, Michael Hill purchased the townland of Kearneyhoo from the Crilly family, and the Hill family reclaimed land along the Glenray River and developed Hill Street, which became the main thoroughfare of the town. And so you can read the rest of that in your leisure. And so this is Sir Nicholas Bagenal then, who built the castle. It's a lovely picture, isn't it? The gold frame in it. Fantastic. Brilliant. There's some old artifacts. And if you want the kids want to dress up, they can dress up. There's wigs and everything here for them. There's an old grandfather clock. I have a couple of grandfather clocks in the house. I've also a granny clock, which were my dad's, and various other clocks as well, which were my dad's. So loads of history here, there's no doubt about it. That's Kilkeel Union notice of rates having been made for the purposes of the Irish Poor Relief Acts. There's an old key there. That key is late 19th century from the workhouse in Newry, County Down. Fantastic. That's the robes of the Order of St. Patrick, 1890. That's the Great Famine. There were a number of landowning families in South Armagh and South Down, including the Needhams, Earls of Kilmorey, who owned Newry and the Mourne estate around Kilkeel, the Halls of Narrow and the Savers, who owned land in Killevy, South Armagh. And then it says, during the 18th and early 19th centuries, landlords were engaged in modernisation of agriculture in an attempt to make their estates more profitable. Many of their tenants held small farms, and potatoes were their main subsistence crop. Over-reliance on potatoes with the outbreak of potato blight in 1845 led to the Great Famine, resulting in poverty and destitution. Then it says the Irish Poor Law of 1838 had set up mechanisms for helping poor people, including the establishment of workhouses such as those at Newry and Kilkeel, and building works. However, these measures were not designed to cope with a prolonged famine. Fort Hill Relief Committee complained in January 1847 that only 1/10 of the district's 1,220 labourers had been employed in public works. And then it says, and this is staggering, over 1 million people died in Ireland, either of starvation or due to the illnesses associated with hunger because of the famine, and around 100, what is that? That is 1,800,000 people emigrated. That is crazy, isn't it? Absolutely crazy. And who's this gentleman? This is Thomas Saver, who was mentioned there, 1789 to 1848. And it goes on here with the Great Famine. It says, the Great Famine prompted a mass immigration of population on a scale unprecedented in Irish history. Warren Point is a deep water port for Newry, was the port of departure for immigrants from southern Ulster and northern Leinster. And of course, Warren Point's not far from here. Now you can see a detail there. People gathered outside a workhouse in Ireland during the years of the Great Famine, 1845 to 1850. And there's another fireplace there, as you can see. There's some artifacts there. Then this is the churches. It says the religious profile of Ulster changed in the 17th and 18th centuries. Scottish Presbyterians arrived in the early 17th century, and a Presbyterian congregation may have been established at Newry in the 1640s. Methodism, prompted by John and Charles Wesley, was also popular in the Newry area. John Wesley made 16 visits to Newry between 1756 and 1789, preaching to large congregations of Catholics and Protestants. Limitations on Catholic freedom in religious and secular life had increased in the last years of the 17th century, and the first penal laws were passed in 1695. However, in the last quarter of the 18th century, most of these laws were repealed. The Catholic Emancipation Act of 1829 increased religious and political freedom for Catholics, locally reflected by the opening of churches and convents. Before that, of course, they used to have what was known as mass rocks, because they would have had the mass on in secret on rocks. Then it says the Evangelical Revival of 1859 initially associated with the Presbyterian community, leading to the establishment of Sunday schools and support for the temperance movement in areas such as Downmore near Newry. And of course, I've done a wee video in Bangor Abbey of James Dawsett Rose Cleland, and he actually was the first to start a Sunday school in Ireland. So there's St Patrick's Church, and that's where Nicholas Bagenal's buried. It says St Patrick's Church was originally built by Sir Nicholas Bagenal, 1578, as the first purpose-built Protestant church in Ireland. The present church dates from the 18th and 19th century, but of course he's buried there. Then it says the Dominican Church of the Sacred Heart and St Catherine of Siena, Newry. The order of preachers came to Newry in 1871, and the new church was dedicated in 1875. So there you go. So Wesley got about, there's no doubt about it. No matter where I go, I always bump into Wesley. When I say bump into him, I mean places where he's been, of course. 16 visits he made to Newry between 1756 and 1789. That's incredible. I've covered a lot of John Wesley's visits to Ireland, and I think that takes the biscuit. I think 16, well, maybe apart from Lisburn right enough, because he came every 2 years. He paid a visit to Lisburn, but certainly 16 is a lot. And so that's some of the artifacts there. As you can see. That's actually a printing plate from the 19th century. So it is. Number 3 is a Bible, 1638. And that's the Gospel according to Matthew. So that's from 1638, that Bible. That's fantastic, isn't it? Brilliant. I think that's a collection. It is a collection shovel, 1830s. But the Bible's fantastic, isn't it? From the 17th century, brilliant. 1638. Certainly looks like it around the side of that age, doesn't it? Brilliant. You can see somebody's made notes inside it. Just zoom in, let you see that. 1638 says, King James version of the Holy Bible, used as a family Bible by the Barcrofts of the Glen in Newry, a prominent Quaker family in the area. This copy is annotated, I think that is, annotated, I think that is, with genealogical notes on their family history. So that's actually the history, those notes of the family. So amazing to have that from the 17th century. And I think these are from the prison that used to be here. This here is a padlock. It's believed from the 19th century, found near the site of Newry Bridewell. This padlock may have been used in the prison. And then these are handcuffs. Handcuffs and key, 1835. Oh, fantastic. 1835. From Newry Bridewell, which was located at Kilmorey Street in Newry. Originally the name of a 16th century prison, Bridewell, came to be used to describe a town gaol or jail of a house of correction. So there you are. That wee man there was a town clerk in the 19th century. There's the bylaws, town of Newry bylaws. Wonder have they changed much from then. You're probably not allowed to spit on the pavement, I would say. Don't know if you're allowed to do that now or not. So there you go. So thank you for joining me today again on the Church History Trail. And again, if you enjoyed the channel, then please like and subscribe. And I'm going to finish with this here, which is the Isle of Man shortest sea passage weekly service during July and August 1883. God bless.